What if I told you that 5 simple habits could change the way you study and skyrocket your grades? Hi, this is Sinhe Banambam, a plant breeder on a fully funded Erasmus scholarship with loads of student life hacks and experience to share. So, what is a habit? Let's start with my simplest definition. So, habit is a way of everyday living you integrate at some point and continue doing it subconsciously. But why are study habits better than hacks or tricks? Because habits become part of us and it's a combination of both worlds, which is study hacks and study tricks. Stay tuned because by the end of this video, you will have actionable tips to transform your study routine. Okay, let's kick off things with one of the most important habits, strategic time management. I used to be a pro at procrastination. I would pull all-nighters, cram one night before the exam, and always feeling stressed as my deadlines approached. I remember one semester, it was also my exam week, and I had 3 outstanding assignments due in the same week, and I thought I could handle it all last minute. But I ended up drowning myself with the amount of stress and work. I was constantly behind, and it really showed in my grades. And that's when I realized I have to bring about some changes in the way I do things. I could not keep reacting to this chaos. I needed a real good strategy. Then I started using time blocks for everything. Classes, study time, and even including breaks. And it turned out to be a total game changer. I did not just plan out my study sessions, I planned out everything. I scheduled time for my meals, short workout, and even for my downtime. I was not just managing my time better, I was in control of it. And the beauty of time management is not about finding more time to study more. It is in knowing exactly when and how to use the time you already have in your hand. So I started using this Pomodoro technique to break down my study time into manageable chunks. For example, 25 minutes of focused study followed by a 5-minute break. And then I will repeat this cycle 4 times, and at the end of the 4th cycle, I will take a long break, like 30 minutes. It made all of the things I studied more digestible, and it stopped my brain from burning out. Following this, I will give you an actionable tip. You start by planning out your entire week. So do not just focus on study time. Include your meals and your relaxation time. Because if you want to take your time management to a whole new level, start with a weekly planner at least. I know 1 month is too far stressed. Just start with 1 week. Break down all of the things you have to do and make time slots for all of the things you have to do, thereby managing things in different time zones and chunks. But do not forget to schedule your breaks, because studying does not work unless you give your brain some time to recharge. And before we end this time management thing, here's another important tip from myself, from my own experience. Stop multitasking. Focus on one subject per session for better results. I know you can do a lot of things by multitasking on your phone, on your computer, on your laptop, but when it actually comes to studying a major thing, always focus on only one thing at a time. Believe it or not, it is far more productive than you think. Next is something we all think we are doing right, which is note-taking. Here's the thing, not all notes are made equally. I used to be obsessed with writing down whatever my professor said, thinking that the more I wrote down, the more I would remember and the more I would understand. But sooner or later, I realized that that is completely wrong. I realized that just copying information word for word does not actually increase the amount of information you can take in. It just fills up your pages. So I decided to change my approach a little bit. Instead of writing down all of the points, I focus on writing down just the key points. And the most important skill you need to have for this is listening. I learned how to listen for the most important ideas. For example, things like the professor always emphasized on, and also on the things he spent extra time explaining for. Then I taught myself to stop transcribing and focus more on summarizing. One of the biggest breakthroughs I had was when I learned and started using the active note-taking during my lectures. Instead of passively writing whatever I heard, I focused more on trying to understand the material. And then I started writing down my own interpretation in my own words. This way, I began to relate concepts to things I already knew. I could make connections, and that helped me grasp all of the information in one go. And remember, it's not just about note-taking. It's about reviewing them actively. And what do I mean by that? After class, I would check my notes. I just look at the material which is provided by the professor. It may be the PDF or a PowerPoint. Now, when you just compare it to the PDF and your written down notes, if your notes make sense of the whole material, that means that you made a really good notes. And if there are things I could not understand, That made me realize that these are things I have to focus on, and I will study that part more and I will focus more on that part. So now comes the actionable tip of our habit number 2. Review your notes after class or as soon as possible. And do not just read them. Quiz yourself on what you remember. And you know, this active recall method is a scientifically proven method to increase the retention of the information you study. Another quick tip is try using the Cornell note-taking system, which is you split your page into 2 sections. First, for cues, notes, and summaries. This is a great way to organize your thoughts and make review easier. Now, onto our habit number 3, which is proactive review. So this habit is very personal to me because this was a habit I did not fully embrace until I failed an exam that I thought I had already mastered. I was confident because I studied one night before the exam. And what I did not realize at that point of time was that cramming one night before the exam was not the best solution because cramming only works short term. So now I needed a strategy that will work in the long term. So when I talk about proactive review, so instead of reviewing the materials one night or just before the exams, I started reviewing them consistently throughout the semester. It was not about waiting 1 week before the exam and reviewing. It's more about taking small moments to go over things whenever you feel comfortable. So it's more like to go over the information and reinforce the information into your mind after intervals of time. Let me explain. So I would set aside 20 minutes every few days to review what I had learned in my class, which is my notes. Not only did this prevent me from cramming one night before the exam, but it also helped me spot the areas in which I was really lacking in. And by the time finals came around, I was no longer panicking and stressed. So the key to proactive review is using spaced retention. Studies have shown that reviewing your materials at increasing intervals, say 1 day after learning it, and then again 3 days after learning it, and then let's say 2 weeks after learning it, and finally 1 month after learning it. When you do these repetitions, it actually helps you retain all of the information in ways you have not imagined. So feel free to try this out. And following this, I will tell you the next actionable tip. Review your notes right after learning, or if not possible, at least the next day. Then space it out over the next week. Because the more spaced out your reviews are, the more information you will retain. Now, let's talk about creating an environment that actually helps you study. For a long time, I thought I could study everywhere, wherever I am. Maybe on my bed, in a coffee shop, in a classroom, wherever I am, I thought I could study, whatever the given situation. But no, I realized that every time I try to study in all of these different kind of environments, I always get distracted. It wasn't until I created a designated space where I could study without any kind of distractions and where I could put on my 100% focus. So I found a quiet space in my room, which is just on my study table, which happens to be where I'm recording right now. So this is a place where I really enjoy myself. This is a place where I could sit down, clear my mind, and focus completely on my studies or whatever I'm trying to do. So the key is just not about finding a space which is quiet. It's about creating an environment where your brain knows that it's time to work. I also eliminated distractions. I mostly put my phone in silent or on focus. That way I am not pinged by constant notifications. And one more important thing is I love studying digitally. And the most distracting thing here is when I open a lot of tabs. I get distracted and I click on YouTube and watch something. Make sure no random tabs are open on your laptop or your tablet. The goal is to create a space that mentally signals your brain that it's time to focus. By making your study environment work for you, you'll feel more productive and less prone to procrastinate. So now is our actionable tip. Set up a study zone that's free from distractions. For example, if you cannot find a quiet space in your own room or in your own home, that's perfectly fine. You might be someone who prefers to study outside, for example, in a garden, in a park, or in a coffee shop, or even the library. So the key thing is to find an environment or a space where you can concentrate and get things done. And another quick tip is keep your study area organized and clean. And I will give you a very relatable example for this. Whenever I'm not cleaning my desk and when my room is not tidy, it clouds my mind. But whenever things are clean and organized, I'm more productive and more focused. As I realized that a cluttered desk leads to a cluttered mind. When everything has its place, you will feel more productive and more focused to tackle all of the tasks you have in hand. So far, if this video is useful and informative, please give a like and subscribe and comment down below what your biggest struggle with studying is. I'd love to hear from you. Now on to our last and final habit. This habit is all about self-assessment. I used to keep pushing forward, following the same study routines, never stopping to reflect on whether I have to find new ways or new approaches, but just continue doing what I was already doing. But one semester, I decided to take a step back and ask myself this question: what's working and what's not working for me? I'm putting in a lot of work, but I'm not getting really good results. And let me tell you, the answers I got from this self-assessment was eye-opening, because I realized that I was spending too much time on things I already knew, and I was not focused on things I was really lacking in. And that's when I realized the importance of regularly assessing what's working for me and what's something I'm not quite good at. So it's about relying and checking on your progress and constantly making changes wherever it's needed. For example, I started asking myself, what is my current GPA? Where can I improve? And are there any consistent patterns where I'm struggling on? And are there any subjects that I'm constantly falling behind in? This isn't about being hard on yourself. It's more about being honest to yourself, because this reflection allowed me to make adjustments and focus my energy where it was most needed. So every once in a week, I would take 10-15 minutes to reflect on my progress, like what went well and what did not. This simple habit of regular self-assessment is one of the reasons why my grades are improving now. Now comes the actionable tip. At the end of each week, do a quick self-assessment. Ask yourself where you're succeeding and where you need to focus more on, and make small adjustments to improve your study approaches. And following this is another quick tip: track your grades, study habits, and progress, because seeing your improvement and progress on paper can be a big factor for motivation to even doing better. Now we are almost at the end of this video, but before we end this video, remember, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. This video is probably the best video you'll watch today, because you are already learning from my mistakes and you are one step ahead of me. So it's always smarter when you learn from someone and you tweak it in ways that works better for you. And these are the 5 habits that will keep you organized, focused, and make your studying more effective. And by the way, if you are wondering how to build a morning routine that will make your college life 10 times easier, please feel free to check out this video.